A few years ago, I budgeted 8 days for a 3D project and I spent 32. Not because the client was evil or anything, not because I misjudged the work, because I rushed the proposal and almost nothing was defined in writing. So every new request was technically part of the project. Every revision was round one again. And I had no ground to stand on except, but that's not what I meant. 32 days, paid for 8. That project is why this video exists. Today I'm walking you through the terms every 3D freelancer should define before starting any project. The exact points, why each one exists, and how to bring them up without scaring a client away. Quick disclaimer before we start. I'm not a lawyer and this isn't legal advice, but everything in this video comes from the actual terms my studio uses with clients today, refined over more than 10 years of projects. One note on scope. My terms are written for business clients, and that's who this video assumes you work with. Have someone legally qualified in your country check your final wording, especially in Germany, where standard terms have their own legal rules. First, the mental block, because I know why most of you don't have terms. It just feels too formal. You're one person with a laptop, not a corporation. You're worried that sending 3 pages of conditions will make the client think you're difficult before the project even starts. So let me reframe what this document really does. A contract is never there to win the fight. It is actually there to prevent it. You will almost certainly never sue anyone and nobody will sue you. That's not what the paper is for. The paper is for the moment in week 3 when the client asks one more small thing and both of you can look at the same page and see whether that's included. No argument, no resentment. Just a sentence you both agreed to when everyone was still happy. And here's what surprised me when I started sending proper terms. Serious clients relaxed. Companies expect terms. A freelancer without them reads as a hobbyist. The only clients who get scared off by clear conditions are the ones who were planning to benefit from the fog. Losing those is not really a loss. All right, the actual points, 6 of them. Number 1, the deposit. My studio takes 50% when the order is placed, and on longer projects, additional payments as the work progresses. And there's a detail attached that does half of the work. The project clock doesn't start until the deposit is in, and I have every file and the complete briefing. No deposit, no start. Missing product data, no start. This does 2 jobs at once. It funds the work and it filters. A client who won't pay a deposit is telling you before the project starts exactly how the final invoice is going to go. Believe them. Number 2, revisions defined. This is the clause my 32-day project was missing. Write down how many revision rounds are included. My terms say 2 per deliverable. Then defined what a round is. One collected set of feedback in writing, delivered together, not a drip of individual messages or WhatsApp voice messages across 2 weeks. And write down what happens beyond that, meaning additional rounds get billed at your rate. One habit keeps this fair. I tell the client before I do billable extra work, not after. It's in my terms as an obligation, and it means nobody ever gets surprised by an invoice. The clause protects me without ever feeling like a trap to them. Notice what this changes psychologically. Feedback stops being an endless free resource and becomes something the client spends. Suddenly, the notes arrive consolidated, thought through, and prioritized. Your terms just improve the client's feedback quality. Nobody tells you that part. Number 3, what a revision is not. A revision changes something within the agreed scope. Adjusting the lighting is a revision. A third product variant is a new job. Write one sentence that draws that line and reference the deliverables you listed in the proposal. This is the clause that kills scope creep, and scope creep is where my lost 24 days went. And my terms contain one sentence here that surprises people. Personal taste is not a defect. If the delivery matches the agreed briefing, I somehow imagine it differently is not a change request, not a flaw I fix for free. Sounds harsh on paper, but in practice it just moves the important conversation to where it belongs, into the briefing, before anyone renders anything. Number 4, feedback deadlines or the disappearing client. Every freelancer knows this one. You deliver and then to silence. 2 weeks later, the client resurfaces with the feedback and expects you to just drop everything, but your calendar has moved on. Here's how my terms handled it, and this clause has saved me more nerves than any other. Feedback comes collected, in writing, within 3 business days of delivery. If nothing comes, the delivered version counts as approved. And I point that out with every single delivery so it never lands as a surprise. Think about what that changes. The project can't slip into an open-ended coma anymore. Either I get feedback or I get an approval, but I always get a decision. You're not punishing anyone here. You're protecting the other clients in your calendar. And honestly, you're helping the slow client too, because a deadline is often the only reason feedback happens at all. One cousin of this clause worth adding. When the client delivers their materials late, your deadlines shift with it. And extra work caused by their delay gets billed extra. Their delay should never become your unpaid problem. Number 5, cancellation. Projects die, budgets get cut, products get cancelled, the marketing lead changes jobs mid-project. That's just business. And it's fine. What's not fine is you eating those costs. In Germany, the law actually has your back here, and my terms simply stated. If the client cancels early without a reason I caused, I keep the claim to the agreed fee, minus what I save by not finishing the work. If your country doesn't hand you that by default, write your own version into the terms. Just define what's owed at each project stage, with the deposit as the minimum. The exact mechanism matters less than the fact that it's written down before anyone needs it. And number 6, the strongest clause in the whole document, rights transfer only on full payment. The client's right to use the work transfers only when the final invoice is paid. Until then, the renders are yours. You never have to chase an overdue invoice with sad reminder emails again, because the conversation changes shape entirely. The campaign can't launch on unpaid images. And this is not a threat that you make. It's just a fact both of you agree to on day 1. My terms even allow watermarks on the results until payment clears. I've rarely needed that one, but knowing it exists is usually enough. While you're in that section, 3 smaller things that earn real money. The license you grant is limited to the agreed purpose, and in my terms, it runs for 2 years by default. Broader use, like other media or unlimited time, is a new conversation and a new number. And you'd be surprised how often that conversation really happens. Second, source files are not included. The client licenses the output. The project files stay yours. And if they want the scene, that's a separate price. And third, you keep the right to show the work in your portfolio. Cheap to ask for upfront, expensive to negotiate later. Now the part that stops most freelancers from actually doing this. The fear of the awkward moment. Here's how to make it a non-moment. Don't send a separate scary document with paragraph symbols. Put the key points on one page, in plain language, as part of the proposal itself. A short section called how we'll work together, or deposit rounds, deadlines, rights. 5 or 6 sentences a human can read in a minute. Then on the call, mention it in half a sentence. The proposal includes how I handle revisions and payment. Have a quick look and tell me if anything doesn't work for you. That's it, no confrontation. You've just told the client you run a real business, and you've given them the chance to object now, while it's still cheap, instead of in week 3 when it's expensive. One more thing from experience. The first time you send terms, it will feel like you're risking the deal, but you're not. In all the years since I've started doing this properly, I can't remember losing a single good client because of clear conditions. The projects I lost money on were every time the ones where I skipped this step because the client was friendly and I was in a hurry. But friendly is not a contract. So that's the list. Deposit, defined rounds, the scope and taste line, feedback deadlines, cancellation, and rights on payment. You don't need to write this from a blank page. I can help you with this in my community and with the pricing and client conversations that happen daily. Link in the description. But run the wording past a professional in your country before you use it. And next video is the last one in this series and my favorite, because everything so far, the niche, the positioning, the rates, the terms, gets you one client. The next video is about what turns one client into a client who comes back for years. without you sending a single awkward just checking in email. Subscribe so you don't miss it. See you in the next one.